Hi everyone, Olive and June Mani expert Emily here. You might know me from Instagram as Mani of the Moment or from an Olive and June masterclass. I'm here today to show you how to do some really cool things with your Olive and June silicone nail art mat that I have underneath my polishes here. We are going to look at how to make decals for your nails using the mat and regular polish. We're also going to do some gingham. I think we'll do some little strawberry decals, and then I will show you how to do some marbling on the mat as well. These are the colors I think I'm going to use. I have Frigola, what is this? Hibiscus, Geometry, Corrigan, Atlas, Saltwater Taffy, Swan, and Unsung Hero, Crystal. Crystal's really helpful for using your mat for decals. So let me get these out of the way. And before I get started, when I'm using my mat, I always make sure to run my lint roller over it, just do a pass to make sure that I pick up any lint that might be hanging around on my mat, because I don't want that to wind up in my polish. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare all of our decals. We'll get those all done, then we'll let them dry for a while. I will paint my base coat on my that I want underneath my nail art, and then I'll show you how to apply them. So I'm going to start with Frigola, which is like a pink reddish, kind of strawberry colored sheer. And this one's quick dry, but if you have a long lasting sheer, like one of the polishes from the new lip gloss collection, those would work as well. We're going to be making gingham stripes out of this one. So up in the corner of my mat here, I'm just going to paint a even layer of my polish, kind of go back over it a little bit to get it smoothed out. You can go over this with top coat. I find that I usually don't need to for this. If I was using a craft punch or something, which I'll show you later, I might do that. This is enough because I'm just going to show you one nail. But if I were doing a whole mani in these gingham, in this gingham pattern, I would do more of these. Because what we're going to do is let this dry and then peel it off of our mat and cut it into little strips. To cut, I use brow scissors. They're really small and precise. You could use other craft scissors if you want, but these work really well for me. I might do one more patch because sometimes it doesn't peel off as nicely as we might want it to, so it's nice to have a little backup. And I'm just going back over to kind of make it even. I'm not trying to build any opacity at all. Actually, what I want is for it to remain sheer so that I can layer them on top of each other a little bit. So we'll let those dry. And then I'm going to use hibiscus. I thought we might do some little strawberries on some other nails. So you can use your silicone mat as a palette for your nail art. To make these strawberries, I'm going to use hibiscus, Geometry, and Corrigan. And so to start, I'm just going to, look, I already have lint on here again. That's okay. I'm going to just make a little polish puddle and use this as my palette. I'm going to use the smaller end of the nail art brush, and I'm just going to, so I'm going to think about like how big my nail is and how big I want my strawberries to be, and I'm just going to paint a little kind of like rounded triangle shape. The good thing about using your nail art mat to make decals is that if you mess up, the stakes are really low. You can easily start over. Unlike if you're painting directly onto your nail, where you might need to then go back and totally take everything off and start over. This way you don't have to do that. You can just move to a new spot on your mat. So I think that one might be a little big, so I'm going to make another one. My polish is still wet enough, I don't need a new drop. I'm going to do a little smaller one. And I might do a couple of these. They don't need to be perfect. And I'm just filling in the centers. I like to use an old remover pot that I filled with acetone to clean my brush. I just dip it in and then I'll just clean it off on a paper towel. We're gonna do, I'll do one more just to make sure I have one that I like. One thing that you can run into when using the silicone mat is that your design might not pull off the mat nicely. That happens not too often, but especially as you're starting and learning this new technique, I find that it's helpful to just do a few extras just to have them in case you mess up. So we'll just do one more. I also just had an idea for something else we could do to make a little strawberry. So maybe we'll try that one too. You can use craft punches to cut things out of your polish patches that you paint on the mat. So I think that we will try to do one of those as well. So I'm going to clean this brush off. And then I'm going to make a little patch of hibiscus as well. Because I have a heart-shaped, I don't have a strawberry-shaped punch, but I have a heart-shaped punch. And I think if I turn it upside down, I will be able to punch out a strawberry shape. Or turn it into a strawberry shape by putting a little cap on it. So if we turn this up and then we put the little green part on top, I think it might work. So we'll give that a shot too. And then I'm going to go back in with my small nail art brush. And we're going to do this, repeat the process, let this dry for a little bit longer than I'm letting it dry, because you don't want to smudge it. Just for time's sake, I'm moving a little more quickly. And then for this part, we're just going to make little leaves. Looks like kind of like watermelon at the moment. And you don't have to be too precise. Like, strawberries are pretty forgiving. They're not perfect, so yours don't need to be either. And then we'll use Corrigan to add little seeds. And I'm really not being careful here. I'm just kind of adding like random little lines to make my strawberry leaves. They look cute. Then I'm going to use my dotting tool and Corrigan to make those little strawberry seeds. I think that the strawberry seeds are technically yellow, but I just really like Corrigan. So I'm going to use the small end of my dotting tool. Here's the larger end. This is the small end. We'll use that one and just like the tiniest bit of pressure, a really light hand to kind of make the little seeds. And if you want to avoid making a mess, if you're right-handed, don't put your polish over here on the right side. Move it to the other side so you're not worried about dragging your hand through it. Oops, that one was too big. Here we go. And I guess you could We could add the seeds to this polish patch before we pull it up. Let's try that on just part of it. We won't do it on the whole thing so that we can try it the other way too, but we'll give this a shot and see how it works. I'll do it on about half. I've never done this before, so we'll see if it works. All right. So we've got our polish patches drying for our gingham stripes. We've got strawberries drying. We've got a polish patch here drying so that we can test out using our craft punch. So now the only thing we have left is to try doing a little marbling. So I thought for this one, we would use the colors we were already using for our strawberries. We're going to see if we can turn this into a cohesive mani. I'm not sure if we can, but we're going to try. So I've got hibiscus and frigola, and then I thought it might be fun to mix in some atlas and a little saltwater taffy. I'm not sure if I want to pull that green in or not. Maybe a little Corrigan. All right, so you're going to open up all of your bottles because you need to work kind of quickly. And I'm going to pull my mat so that I can work at the corner. Actually, I have a second mat. I'm going to grab that one. And we'll use that one so that we don't mess anything else up. The reason I like to work on the corner of the mat is because we're going to make a little puddle of all of our polish colors together, and then we're going to fold it and press really lightly. You don't want to press the sides together. You don't want them to touch because that'll lift the polish. But if you just gently touch it so that the polish touches itself but your mat doesn't touch the mat, then you can squish the polish around and it will marble on the mat. So just like before, we're going to run our lint roller over this so that we don't have any lint hanging out in our polish. I'm going to start with some frigola, and it's okay that these are different types of polish. Some of them are quick dry, some of them are long lasting. It doesn't matter. I'm just kind of randomly adding some polish blobs. I don't know if this green is going to work in here, but we're going to find out. There's a chance I delete this part of the video and you never see it. All right, and then I'm going to do some atlas to kind of add a little shimmer to this design and kind of pull it all together. But you can totally choose whatever colors you would like. This is giving strawberry shortcake, like vintage strawberry shortcake. I don't want to put the dark green in there because I'm afraid that it will just make brown. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more frigola on top. All right, and then we're going to smush this. So I'm going to fold this over and just lightly press it down and kind of spread it out as well. And you can do it the other direction too. And then if you need to help it along a little, like this part's kind of thick, you can kind of use your dotting tool to pull it around. And like this spot got kind of thin. This looks bad on camera, but it looks kind of cool in person. Let's try one more and see how that looks. So we'll do more frigola. And this will be harder to smush because of the location it's on in the mat. I've contemplated buying an extra mat just to cut up so that I have like little pieces to work with. Then you could, if you wanted to do these smush decals, you could work, it'd be easier to work with. Here's Corrigan. I'm not really a green person, but Corrigan is so good. be careful that if you get a different color polish on there, that you just wipe it off on a paper towel before you put it back into the bottle. Let's do some Atlas. And there's not a ton of rhyme or reason to where I'm putting the colors. I'm just kind of trying to balance it a little bit. And then I don't think we did any hibiscus yet. Okay, maybe a tiny bit more Frigola. And maybe we'll add a little bit of Swan into this one. Just a little. All right, so I'm gonna take the other end of this and I'm gonna squish it around. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, yeah. This does look like strawberry shortcake. I've got some bubbles in here, so I'm kind of just popping them with the dotting tool. But honestly, I think the bubbles sometimes look kind of cool. And this is thicker, so this is going to take longer to dry. That's a question people ask me a lot, is how long does this need to dry? And the answer, unfortunately, is it depends. So if it's thicker like this, then you might need 30 to 40 minutes. Could be longer depending on how thick it is. But if it's thin, especially since this is quick dry, we might be able to peel this up kind of soon. But like 20 minutes is a good general rule, unless it's something thicker like one of these marble pools. I am going to take Crystal and put it over the top of these strawberries now that they've dried, so that I don't lose any of my little details on the edge. So I'm not as worried about doing it on the patches because I have pretty solid edges. But with these little things, sometimes those corners can be tough and not pull up. You could use top coat. I like to use Crystal because it's a little bit thinner, and I found that things stay a little more pliable for some reason when I use Crystal. If you let these dry for too long, and it'll be like way too long, like you can't do these the night before and then paint your mani the next day. That won't work because they will get crispy and crunchy and they'll just flake apart. Here, I have an old, let's see if this will do it. This is an old decal that I made, and this one for some reason is just like not, it's like, it's too brittle for me to put on my nail, but it won't crumble like the rest of them. So that was a bad example, but, and maybe I used Crystal on that one. It helps it stay more pliable. But if you let it dry for too long, it'll get really flaky and crumbly and it won't hold together. So there is a limit on how long you can let it dry. All right, I am going to let these dry. I'm gonna paint a base coat on, I'm gonna take this polish off, paint a base coat on this hand. I think I'm just gonna do white because I think that will work under everything. And then I'll be back in about a half hour, and for you, just a moment. All right, we are back. It has been about 40 minutes, and I stuck my finger in this one on accident. Mani experts are just like us. So I'm just gonna use this one as a test to see if this is dry enough, and it's already popping off, so I'm thinking yes. So to peel these off, I really bend the silicone mat, and then just peel this way. If this wasn't ready, you would see this, especially toward the middle, starting to like stretch and look gummy, but this is coming off well. It's still really soft and feels stretchy, so I can tell that it's still like a little wet deep inside there, but this will work okay. I'm not gonna use this one because, like I said, I put my finger in it. It does kind of look cool from the back in a way also. So I painted 2 coats of Swan on all these fingers except this one. I left this one bare because since we put some shears into this, I wanted to have some areas be kind of transparent if there are any areas that are a little transparent, I wanted them to show to kind of add some depth. So I did not put anything on this one, but you could absolutely put a base coat down if you wanted to. I'm going to slide this one out of the way because we're not going to do that one yet. And I'm going to get these little pieces out of my way just by rolling the lint roller just over those, and they will pick right up. That's one of my favorite things about the silicone mat is how easy it is to clean. Just a lint roller picks everything up. So, like I said before, let me slide this toward me. There we go. You're just gonna bend the mat and then really gently lift off of here. So I have a little tear in there, but that's okay. That's why we did some extras. Let's pull this one off too. I did go back over this one with crystal just so that we had two different options. So you can see that I've got a crystal layer around it, so that way if it started to tear, it would just tear the crystal. I think we will use this one, which does have a little bit of lint in it. And then I'm just gonna trim the rough edges off. So that we can get nice straight strips. I think I'm gonna go this way. So I just want to kind of make them as even as I can, but they don't have to be perfect. You probably, if you were like really concerned about making them straight, you could probably use like a craft cutting mat and a straight edge and a really sharp X-Acto. I think you could probably cut them that way. I just don't think it is necessary to be quite that fussy. And then there's that spot where it tore. So I'm just gonna chop this part off because we're gonna use some shorter ones going across the nail anyway. All right, so that should be good for now. And we'll just set these off to the side. And then let's look at our strawberries. So you can peel these up. Again, these have crystal over them so that we don't lose any of those little detail edges. And then you'll just trim around them as much as you can so that there's not a ton of that layer of crystal around it. And I think these are the two I'm probably going to use, so I'll just trim around these. This is a little like tedious, but if you're not super confident with nail art yet, this is a great way to avoid the pain of like spending a long time getting your base coat perfect and then messing it up when you go to do your nail art. I've definitely done that many times and it's no fun. It's always really frustrating when you have to take everything off and start over. Some tweezers would probably help hold these, especially if you have longer nails. Mine are long right now and I don't know how to do anything with them because my nails are not normally long. So I'm constantly like fumbling around. I'm like a little baby deer, but with fingernails. I'm gonna just trim this little piece off. Maybe. Here, let's use these tweezers. Nope. There we go. There we go. And you don't have to be super precise. It's just nice to be able to get rid of the excess. All right, so those are cut out. And then here is our little patch for our punch out strawberries. And again, we're bending that mat back so that you can roll the polish off. And if you want to go slow, because you might see like where it comes off unevenly. If you go nice and slow, you can catch that and get that lifted before it tears too much. All right, so there's that guy. All right, so to apply these, our superhero product is Crystal. You can use top coat. I would personally use either Crystal or quick dry top coat because they're thinner, and you can use, because you're basically using this kind of as adhesive or glue. So you can get that stickiness from the Crystal or the quick dry top coat without the bulk that makes the long-lasting top coat so great, right? It has a real jelly finish. It's thick and juicy and plump, but we don't want that underneath our decals, right? So save the top coat. If you don't have anything else, this would work, but I prefer Crystal, and then my second choice would be quick dry top coat, and then my third choice would be regular top coat. All right, so I think on my pinky, I'm just going to put one little strawberry. So I'll use tweezers to help apply this. If you have a wax pen, it's just like a pen that has wax on the end, and you can use it to pick up, to make it for crafting. That works really well as well, even better than using tweezers or something. But tweezers work just fine. So I think I'm just gonna put it just in the middle of my nail, with this one giant seed on here. You don't need to coat your whole nail, but you do want to make sure that you have enough Crystal or whatever, quick dry top coat, whatever you're using, to cover behind the whole decal that you've made. If you don't cover behind the whole thing, it might not stick as well. Especially if you've used Crystal, you might get like a little shadow. You probably won't notice it because my background is white, but if you were doing this on a color, it might show that it hadn't adhered fully. So just something to be mindful of. So I am going to take just a little bit of Crystal. I'm going to wipe off both sides, not all the way, but a lot. I don't have a lot on my brush. And then add a little swipe to the center of my nail where I want my decal to go. Set it down, and then really gently tap it down. You don't want to tap too hard, and you don't want to stick your finger in the Crystal. I hope I just did that on camera and not off. And then it's stuck on there, and it's cute. All right, so that's the first one. On this one, we are going to do our gingham pattern, which is one of my favorite things to do with the silicone mat, because if you were to paint a gingham pattern with a regular polish, like if I were to use hibiscus, I'd paint my stripes. First of all, I'd have to be really careful that I was painting nice, straight, even stripes. It's really hard to get like a crisp line at your cuticle line as well, or on your sidewalls. You don't have to worry about that with these strips. If I was using an opaque polish, I would have to get a darker color to show where they overlap, right? Otherwise it'll just look like a grid, not like gingham. If you use a jelly, you can get that naturally from where they overlap. You can even see here where they're overlapping, just laying here, that it's darker. Let's see if I can slide one of these around. You can see that where they cross, it's darker. So it does all of the work for you, then you don't have to go back in and fill in that little spot. So to do this, I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where I get most of the polish off of Crystal, and then I'm going to use the side of my brush. I'm going to start in the center where I put my first stripe and just make a stripe of Crystal down the center. I will just make a stripe of crystal down the center, pick up one of my strips. It's not perfectly straight, but I'm not too worried about it. And then I'm gonna set it down. Oops. You do get a little bit of play with it. And then tap it down onto your nail. And then we will trim off most of the excess. And then we'll grab my remover pot that has my acetone in it and my cleanup brush. And I'm gonna dip it in there, dab off the excess on a paper towel. Let me grab my paper towel over into screen here. Dab off the excess. And then I'm gonna use my cleanup brush to kind of fold this polish over the tip of my nail and kind of pat it into place with my finger. It kind of seals it in. And then I'm just gonna go and clean up, just melt away that excess with just a little bit of remover. All right, now we're gonna add another stripe on each side, and then we'll go back and do the crosses. So a little bit of crystal. I made my stripes like a little bit wide, but it'll be okay. Set that down, tap it on, take my scissors. I can kind of cheat at making this a little bit straighter by pulling it. And then trim off the excess. Go in and melt that edge down. So I'm using this to do gingham, but you could absolutely use this to just make stripes as well. Oopsies. You gotta be careful because you can like pull it around a little bit. So you wanna be careful. It is pretty thin, especially if you're using a quick dry polish. It is thinner than if you're using a long lasting. So go back in with more crystal, another stripe. And then just lay that down there, kind of straighten it out, tap, tap, tap. Oops, see if I can cheat that a little bit straighter. And then trim. Go back with the cleanup brush, melt that edge down. And I'm like tapping rather than brushing because I don't want to sweep it and shift it. Melt that edge over, tap it on. And so I've got stripes. These aren't particularly straight because I was trying to do it quickly on camera, but I don't know, I think it still looks pretty good. And once we get top coat on, it's gonna look even better. So now we're gonna go across the other direction. So again, I am cleaning most of the crystal off my brush. This part's really crooked, so I'm gonna go across it and kind of cover it up with a stripe. And I like to go, make sure I get the edge over there. And then take this one. I'm excited to try this with some of the new lip gloss polishes. I think that they will work really well with this. So I'm just cleaning up the edges. And then we'll go back in. I don't know if I have enough strips. Oh, I have the other sheet. We're good. Go this way. And we're going to top coat this whole thing later, so if we've got some globs of crystal, it'll be okay. There we go. Just tap that down. And then we'll melt this down onto the nail. And then I'm just going to do the same thing over here, and then we'll just pull the excess off. Kind of just clean up anything that got on my skin. And then, let's see, I'm going to cut one more strip. Actually, I can probably use this one. It's crooked, but it'll be at the tip. So we'll take the skinny end and we won't use that side. So this side's really skinny. We'll just kind of, it'll be okay. All right, so clean off most of that. Tap this on. And so up here at the free edge, we can trim so that we can wrap around the edge of that nail to get it to stay better. All right, so not perfect, but better than I could do this quickly, free-handed. Looks like a little picnic. All right, now for this nail, you know what, I might just leave that nail white. Let's do this. Let me pick up all these extra little scraps that we don't need. Oops, not my paper towel. All right, so here is our marble peel, and this is already lifting. So I'm bending back, kind of rolling it off. And I've got a nice peel here. So I'm gonna think about what part I want on my nail. I think I really like this part. So I'm gonna kind of use my other nail to like mark a rough estimate of like where I need to cut this. I can definitely cut it right here, so I can use it for more than one nail. And applying it as a whole nail decal is a little more difficult than if you could just cut like little shapes out. Like I have a little piece over here that somehow wound up on my mat, so you could take and just make little like odd shapes and stick them on and trim off the excess on a nail if you are intimidated by making a whole nail decal. All right, so I know that this part at the bottom I'm not going to use. A whole nail decal does require a decent amount of cleanup. So if that's not something that you enjoy, doing smaller strips might be the right move for you. Hopefully I didn't make this too small just now. I'm not used to having these long nails yet. I think we're okay. All right, so I'm going to apply a really thin layer of crystal to my whole nail. I don't want it to be too thick or this will like slide around. Use these tweezers, actually, so I can have a steady spot to have this for you. Okay. All right, so this is the part that's kind of annoying. You have to like smooth it around. And you can turn your nail over and trim excess away carefully. Okay, so this looks wild right now. Not great. But I'm gonna use my acetone and my cleanup brush to push down these sides and then clean up any excess that we have here. And it's gonna take a little bit because this was pretty thick, right? You can also use like this is my partially melted cuticle pusher. You can use it to kind of like cut away the excess. You just have to be careful not to tear anything. So again, if you don't want to do all this cleanup, then you could cut just kind of abstract shapes or swirls out and apply those. This is still way less cleanup than like doing a water marble technique or even like a smush mani where you take like a silicone nail stamper and put polish on it and smush all over. I do still think even with the amount of cleanup that this takes that it is still easier than other marbling techniques. If you're worried about like not getting coverage all the way to the edges, you can always put a base color that matches your marbling instead of leaving a bare nail. I'm not sure how much transparency I actually got on here anyway, so I probably could have skipped that. And then we're just going to kind of use the cleanup brush to melt this over the edge with the acetone. And there we go. I've got a little bit of a lift over here, so you can always go in and tap down a little bit more. All right, so that's that one. And then for the thumb, I wanted to show you how to use the craft punch to create a little strawberry. I haven't done this before, so we're gonna see if it works. So this is my craft punch. It has a little plug here that I'm gonna pop out because I want my decals to fall out. I also want to use this to see, kind of cheat, to see where my hole is punching. So I'm going to, oops, get that out of the way, then peel this up. That came off really nicely. So we're going to try doing one on the side that I made with seeds, and we'll see what happens. Let's see if I can bring you along for the experience. So we're going to slide this in here. And I want to get it in far enough that I get a nice solid heart. And we'll see if we can get this to come out. Pardon the banging. And then we'll look at our little seeds. Cute, cute. So there's still room here. You could do some more if you wanted. I'm just going to use this one. So again, we'll use our crystal. I'm just going to put this Maybe you want to do it this way. Just a little strawberry down here. So most of the polish off my brush, but enough to cover the whole back of that so that it sticks down nicely. And I'm going to put it this way. Ah, oh no, look what I did. That's okay. We're going to cover that up with the leaf because remember we still have to paint the leaves on. So I am going to use geometry and the small end of my nail art brush again. Just make a little puddle right here. And then I'll just cover that up. It's like it never happened. And then a little stem from the top. So if you don't feel confident painting a freehand strawberry, you could always use a craft punch. I just got this on Amazon. It came in a set of 3 with a heart, a star, and a circle. But I'm sure you can get them at the craft store as well. So that's that. And then I'm just gonna leave this one white. Then you want to top coat everything. So I have enough that I could do another decal, but I think that I'm going to leave this as is. So I encourage you when you're doing nail art to always see it through, unless you really mess something up, see it through to top coat, because it's amazing what top coat can do for nail art. You might think that it doesn't look very good, but then once you put the top coat on, some sort of magic happens and it kind of melts everything together. You do still want to give this some dry time because when you put the crystal on and then tap your decal on, it kind of like reactivates the wetness of the polish. So if you went right over with top coat, you could risk smudging. So you want to make sure that you do allow some dry time as well. So just top coat these. And it really has a great effect on the gingham as well. Like, I feel like it kind of really activates the, I don't know, like the transparency and then the opacity of where they overlap. This one's boring. There is something about a nice, crisp, white nail in the summer. And then with this one especially, you want to make sure that you cap your nail, which just means that you seal in around the free edge of your nail. If your nails are short, I would still cap and then go back in with your cleanup brush to clean up anything that got on your skin, because you want to make sure that this isn't going to lift, since it is like a sticker that you put on. And then I always like to use my index finger to pull my skin back. A little bit so that I can get closer to that cuticle line. And then if you got any on your skin, you could go back in and clean up. There you have it. I don't know if I would wear this as a whole mani or not, but it is kind of fun. And you could use, obviously, like I'm showing you strawberries as decals, but you could do literally anything. It's especially a great, if you want to explore doing more complicated nail art, practicing on your silicone mat is really great, because even if you aren't going to use it, it's a great place to practice and get more confident. It's also great for doing nail art on your non-dominant hand or on your dominant hand, because you can just do your decals on the mat and then pop them onto your dominant hand, so you can have nail art on both hands instead of what I normally have, which is like a a coordinating mani. So on this hand, I might do I might do hibiscus and swan and Corrigan and saltwater taffy, like as a skittle mani on this hand. If I didn't have the option of doing something with the silicone mat. So there you go. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to Olive and June on Instagram, or you can reach out to me. I'm Manny of the Moment on Instagram, and I'm always happy to answer your questions. Thanks.